This is the Jocko Underground podcast, number 14, with Echo Charles and me, Jocko Willink. Good evening, Echo.
Good evening.
So, recently on Jordan Peterson, and there were some comments about it that came out. And look, as I go through some of those comments on the YouTube channel, we can probably do some kind of an underground podcast about the comments and just kind of reflect on them and respond to some of them. And we could probably do that. We've talked about doing that with some of the other of our podcasts in the past, but there's a bunch of things, but there was one that I saw came up a bunch. So at some point, Jordan asked me if I wanted peace for my son. And for some reason, he focused on my son. I also have daughters as well. And I said, I thought about it for a second. I said, yes, I want there to be peace for my son. And whenever I said that, he started talking immediately, and I wasn't done yet. And I said, but he started talking. He's not like he was being rude. I saw some people let Jocko finish talking and don't look, you got to remember, a podcast is a conversation. That's what it is. And so when you're having a conversation, you think of something you want to say, you don't want to lose a thought. He thought of something and he started talking, and I didn't obviously make it clear that I had a little bit more to say. And so we moved on. But I did get that but in. Yeah. So people knew that there was more to the answer. And I just wanted to kind of expand on that just a little bit. So of course, I want my kids, my son and my daughters, to have, and not just them, but my family and friends and people that I know. I want people to have peace and prosperity. Of course, right? That's kind of obvious. But I also know that I want them also to have struggle. I want them to face adversity. Right? I think that is also very obvious. And I think there's some people that in the comments said the but was what he wanted to say. And that's kind of true too, right? It's such a big but that I didn't really need to say anything else. So there was that aspect to it too. But look, if you have everything easy in life, you just get soft and weak, right? I mean, why not have your kids in an isolated, insulated, reinforced concrete bunker with filtered air and a supply of food and water and padded walls where nothing can ever happen to them, right? Because that's what you do. And you actually put them on a calorie restrictive diet, so that's the maximum lifespan and all that stuff. Like that, if that's what we're going to do, what are you going to end up with? You're going to end up with someone they live for a long time, but do they really live? Do they really live? That's the question. So, yeah, I want everyone to have peace, but at the same time, I think that struggle is good. I think that struggle makes better people. Adversity makes you tougher. And that's what the but was about. It goes back to something I said to Sam Harris about combat and cancer. I had said that he was saying that, you say that wait, that wasn't a very good Sam Harris impersonation, was it?
No.
He said, Jocko, you say that combat is horrible, but at the same time, you also have said that it was the best experience in your life. How do you reconcile those thoughts? So that's what Sam Harris said to me.
Not bad.
Hey, first attempt.
Yeah,
right? Give me a little suck.
Acceptable.
So he asked me that, and I said, well, it's like someone that has cancer, not someone, it's like some people that have cancer that when they get through the cancer, they say something along the lines of, it's the best thing that's happened to me. I got to put things in perspective. I got to understand what's truly important in life. And so they actually do take something away from it that's positive, but they say, I'd never wish it on anybody. So that's what I say about combat as well. So there are some benefits. Do I want peace and happiness for my family, for my friends, for the people I know? Yes, absolutely. But there you go. Yeah. And with that, let's get to some Q&A.
Cool.
Little Q&A.
Yeah, I felt the same when I listened to that podcast. I felt the same thing when you were like, but, and I figured I knew what you were gonna say, but I still want to hear that. And then and I think you said it like twice, where you're like, but, like you said it again.
I was trying to get it in there.
Yeah,
and the weird thing is, you can't recreate what you were going to say at that moment.
Yeah, the moment.
So now I could plot it out, and I could write a paragraph about it, and I could make bullet points and then kind of speak to it. Mm-hmm. But I can't even go back and like recreate what I was about to say in the spur of the moment.
Right.
But again, that's why podcasts, they're a conversation, and you have to put being a conversation at the top. Otherwise, it's an interview. And I don't want to not that I don't want to get interviewed. I get interviewed a lot, but I would much rather, I'm not going to get interviewed for 2.5 hours, which is how long we were talking for. An interview for 2 hours is not a good, it's not what I want to hear. It's not what I want to do. I don't want to get interviewed. I want to have a conversation for 2 hours. And if you might ask me a question or say something that makes me talk for 14 minutes straight. Mm-hmm. But then I just don't want you to move on to the next question. I want you to respond and say something else. And that's what I think makes podcasts good to listen to, because it's supposed to be a real conversation. You can tell when you're on with someone that kind of does podcasts, because you're going to let someone finish, Mm-hmm. And look, Jordan's been out of the game for a little bit. That is a little excerpt of what we are doing on the Jocko Underground podcast. So if you want to continue to listen, go to jockounderground.com and subscribe. And we're doing this to mitigate our reliance on external platforms, so we are not subject to their control. And we're doing it so we can give you more control, more interaction, more direct connections, better communications with us, strengthen this legion of troopers that are in the game with us. So thank you. It's jockounderground.com. It costs $8.18 a month. And if you can't afford to support us, we can still support you. Just email assistance@jockounderground.com and we'll get you taken care of. Until then, we will see you mobilized underground. More direct connections, better communications with us, strengthen this legion of troopers that are in the game with us. So thank you. It's jockounderground.com. It costs $8.18 a month. And if you can't afford to support us, we can still support you. Just email assistance@jockounderground.com and we'll get you taken care of. Until then, we will see you mobilized underground.